Hello and welcome to the Non-Perfect Parents Club podcast. I'm Emma, a mama of 2 girls, an ex-nursery practitioner and the creator of the Non-Perfect Parents Club. The Non-Perfect Parents Club is all about support, honesty, truths, acknowledging that none of us can be perfect parents because it's impossible, and basically just speaking the unspoken. The only rule here is no judgment allowed. I love hearing people's stories. I love finding out about other parents, their family dynamics, their values and how they tick. So that is what this podcast is going to be. Some great honest conversations about parenting, hopefully delving into some nitty-gritty thoughts and feelings that will make us all laugh, cry and sigh a big sigh of relief. Hello and welcome back to the Non-Perfect Parents Club podcast. Today I'm joined by Sophie. Hi Sophie and welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your family dynamic and any heritage.
Okay, well, my name is Sophie Pallock and I'm married with 2 children. Mm-hmm. One is 6 and one is just turned 4. Mm-hmm. I'm just from a little country village around here. My husband's got some Italian heritage, which is quite nice. So my girls love the fact that they can like have that sort of Italian thing. Like if we go there, and my 6-year-old actually, not that there's any judgment on people buying pasta sauce, but she refuses to eat bought pasta sauce. She was saying in the garden to me yesterday, she was like, "Mummy, some mummies buy pasta sauce in a jar. They don't make it out of tomatoes." And I was like, "Well, that's all right." She's like, "No, I don't want that."
Oh, bless her.
I know. So yeah, there's just the 4 of us. And yeah, it's lovely, really.
Okay. The main rule of the Non-Perfect Parents Club is no judgment allowed. Have you ever felt judged in your parenting, and can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I would say I have in some cases. I think I mentioned to you, but I was I'm a big breastfeeding advocate, and I breastfed both my little girls up until they were 3, and I probably would have gone longer, to be honest, if they'd have sort of let me. I tandem fed as well.
Oh wow,
so,
did you?
Yeah. I'm actually a breastfeeding peer supporter because I just think it's just such an important sort of thing. But yeah, so I breastfed them both until they were 3 and tandem fed when I had the second one. And I've had some judgment with that. You know, like you're out and about and you've got like quite a large toddler that you're feeding and things like that. I also co-slept with them, and that's especially like, I don't know, there's a certain generation I think that still are quite judgy about co-sleeping, and there's a lot of things about safe sleep and stuff like that, but neither of my children slept. They one of them still gets up in the night sometimes, but so I had pretty much like 5 years of no sleep. Wow. It felt it felt like the most natural thing to do was to just be there with them, like feeding to sleep and things like that. So I've had a lot of support, you know, as well on that, and of like quite a nice network of people who were all like pro breastfeeding, and you know, and to an older age as well. But you know, it's worked for us. I just feel like it's, you know, it nurtured my children the best way I wanted to do. So and it was such a nice thing for them as well. It was always such a comfort. So now I don't feed any.
It's always a topic that comes up for judgment, and I just don't know why. Like, obviously I do know why, but it's like, why do people, because you can't do right for doing wrong. You're judged if you breastfeed and then keep on breastfeeding. You're judged if you don't breastfeed. It's like, why is it such a topic that people like to be so strongly opinionated on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot about, you know, like guidelines that people follow. And then I think, well, you don't, you know, those are just guidelines. If you want to feed longer, I think in a lot of cases women then feel bad that they carry on breastfeeding because they've reached that like guideline of 2 years, and then they think, oh well, I shouldn't be doing it anymore, and then they really struggle with like weaning and stuff like that because you know, you could just let it go its natural course. It does, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Is that what you found then? Did you let it run its natural course?
I just sort of let it run its natural course, really. Yeah.
And that's the thing I tend to find comments with co-sleeping as well, is that it's this thing of, oh, they'll never sleep in their own bed, but then I've heard lots of things said from people that have co-slept, and that again just seems to run its natural course.
Definitely.
They either leave the bed or they come in sometime. Like it's not a big thing.
Yeah, it's never been a big thing in our house, and I think because it's very, like, in bedtime, it's very natural, and I've always been there. Both of them, like, they're so happy to go to bed.
Aww.
Like, there's never a fight. They're just like, they snuggle down, mummy's there type thing. So they both share a bedroom now. They've both got their own double beds, so I can get in with one of them or the other one. But I do find that now at like 4 and 6, they want their own space now.
Yeah.
Some nights, you know, they'll want me to go in or not, but yeah.
And how did you find that as a person? So, do you know what I mean by that? Did you find that, obviously, I presume you wanted to do that, was how you wanted to do it, but was it intense, or did you just enjoy, like, the co-sleeping, the breastfeeding?
It wasn't intentional, for sure.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't my intention.
Right.
I think, you know, you don't know what kind of mum you're going to be, do you, at all?
You think you do.
You think you do,
don't.
yeah. And I'd bought a cot, and I'd bought a Moses basket, and I set it up by the bed, and I brought my first little girl home, and I remember looking at this Moses basket and thinking, I can't put her in there. Yeah. It just felt wrong to me. Yeah. It just felt like, oh, she's been so much a part of me for like 9 months, to put her in there. And I just popped her in the bed next to me, and that was sort of, the Moses basket was never used. The cot was never used, to be honest. It wasn't sort of intentional. It sort of just happened. I'd even bought bottles as well.
Oh, had you?
Yeah, and I just my breastfeeding journey with my first was quite difficult.
Right.
She wouldn't feed at all. Right. For about 3 weeks. She just basically screamed every time she latched, and there were times when I was like, oh. You know, people said to me, oh, you don't have to keep trying to, you know, it's okay to give her a bottle. And I was like, I know it is, but I'm going to keep going. And I sort of just pushed through it. And and then before I knew it, she was 3. And I'd been feeding her that long.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about parenting? Good, bad? Has it changed you? Any regrets? I know that's quite a full-on question. Everyone always tells me that.
Yeah. But. It's been a really positive experience for me. I absolutely love being a mum more than anything. Yeah. I didn't think that I would.
Right.
I thought, you know, I really wanted to have children, but I was working for a really nice business that I really loved. Yeah. Like, I'd worked my way up. I was marketing PR manager there. And me and my husband decided to have a baby, and I was determined that I would go back to that job, and I'd only be away for 6 months, and then then that didn't happen. I just I just fell in love with being a mum so much that I decided to then go freelance and set up my own business so that I could be there for my children. I suppose, like, my only regret perhaps at the beginning was that I was very uptight.
Right.
I think that's quite normal for, like, your first time mum, isn't it? Like, I worried all the time, and definitely through having a second one, where, I don't know if your second one's the same, but my second one's a bit like, well, she can just get on with it type thing, isn't it? You know, you, like, with your first, you're like, oh, I should feed her now, or she needs to go down for a nap. And I'll never forget this time when I was bathing my first little girl when she was 3, and turned around, and I'd left the newborn on the floor, and she'd fallen asleep. I was like, oh, right, well, that's nap time done then. Yeah, she just sort of just got on with it. So yeah, I suppose, like, my biggest regret is that I didn't just sort of relax and enjoy my first one a bit more, for sure. like I was definitely quite uptight. Yeah.
I can relate to that. I think I was very much like that with my two as well. Definitely there's a lot of things that going back I would do differently with my first that I did with my second, just because I was probably quite uptight as well.
Yeah. I would also not play with her as much. I know that's a bit of a loaded like thing, but I gave her like my undivided attention like all of the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I just let her sort of play on her own a bit more, then, you know, she would maybe not be quite as hyper focused on me all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Is there anything in your life that has shaped how you parent that you're happy to talk about? Any situations, circumstances that have affected this?
Yeah, I would say that, like, my husband works quite a lot, and he did before COVID. He'd be out of the house very early and he'd be back late, and he has a very intensive hobby, which is rock climbing, which is quite all-consuming. Right. So I would say that I've very much learnt to parent quite solo.
Yeah.
Like, we're a good team, like we know our strengths and our weaknesses and stuff, and since COVID he works at home now all the time, so it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
But it definitely shaped me in the beginning. I think that sort of he had his 2 weeks off, and then I was like pretty much on my own, and he was working all the time, so it was sort of like being thrown in at the deep end.
And it's so, I found, especially with my first, because my husband did, well, he wasn't self-employed at this point, but he was meant to have his 2 weeks off. And he had his first week, and then they rung him and said, can you come in for a week and then have your second week off? So he said yes, and I was like, oh my God. And I remember that first morning of him going to work, and I'm at home with this, like, what should have been a week-old baby. Like, what the hell do I do? Like full-on, like, panic attacks. Like, oh my God.
I know, it's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah, and you literally are just thrown into the deep end, aren't you?
Definitely. Yeah, I think if you have a husband that perhaps goes to work not so early, or doesn't have a very intense hobby like mine that's all consuming, then they're there at the weekends as well, and so I very quickly learned how to sort of do everything, and then I chose not to put either of my children in childcare.
Oh really?
Yeah, so they've never been, apart from school, so 1 to 6, obviously, she went to school having not gone to nursery.
Right.
She hadn't gone to preschool. She hadn't really been looked after by anyone else, because the run up to her going to school was also COVID as well, so we couldn't, and it's the same, my second is due to start school in September, and she hasn't ever been to any sort of educational setting or anything like that, so I don't know, I just felt like that was the right thing, thing for us. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely made my parenting a lot more intense, because I do spend like all my time with them.
So how did your eldest find going to school then?
She was actually really, really good. She had a wobble like at the beginning, but I think most do, even the ones that have gone to preschool. Yeah, but no, she was absolutely fine actually, and she really sort of fitted into school quite quickly. I'm not sure what my second will be like. Right. Amber's quite different.
Is she?
Yeah, she's quite a different child. She's quieter and more stubborn, so we'll see.
Yeah, see.
But yeah, I suppose I relate that back to judgment as well, because I sometimes, because I work obviously, like I run my own business, and I write for businesses and everything, and then not having any childcare as well. But I've always maintained that, my children will come with me for everything. I'll go and get my hair cut, my children will come with me. I'll go and have my nails done, my children will come with me. They're amazing at being able to fit into all sorts of different situations that they've been to, and any meetings, they normally come with me.
Right.
So I suppose they've experienced quite a lot really, although they've not been in preschool. They've experienced all sorts of different things, but I've had judgment of that as well, because some mums have said to me, like how do you do it all? Type thing. And I just feel like it's sort of like a backhanded sort of, it's not a compliment, it's sort of trying to make me feel bad for I suppose coping, maybe. I don't know. And we don't all cope, do we?
No. But so how, I'm going to say it now, how do you fit work around your girls? Obviously I know your oldest is in school now, but I know from so I have my set days at work, but I do have to do a lot of work at home, and I know that I find it really hard to work when the girls are here, but mine are very intense and they ask quite a lot of me, I guess. How do you find working around your children?
Well, I've been obviously running my own business now for six years. I'm quite organised. I can also hyper focus on something. So if I've got to get something done, I'll just do it. I'm very easily not distracted.
Okay, that's probably my problem.
So I don't know really. I suppose it just works for us. I mean, we just spoke off this about screen time. They don't have screen time either, so it's not like I would sit and sort of put them on an iPad or anything like that. I sort of, I don't know. I think it's like an expectation in our family that mummy's doing that now, so you have to go play. And they do 9 times out of 10. They do go and get on with something. But I do make use of evenings. My children go to bed very early. They go to bed 7:15.
Okay.
And then I work. So that's how I suppose I fit it all in. Then they get up at the crack of dawn. They were up at 5 a.m. this morning. Did you see my Instagram? We got up and had breakfast, and I was like, right, let's go to the beach before school, because
I thought that was amazing though. When I saw that, I was just like, oh wow, that is just such a nice life, being able to do that. I mean, mine don't get, one's preteen, so she would sleep in till tea time if I let her, and my other one doesn't. If she goes to bed later, she will lie in. On a school morning, she just doesn't want to get up. But so we would never probably get to that point, because and I'm not organised. But I saw that and I was just like, oh wow, that is amazing, and what a lovely thing for the children as well.
It's funny actually, because so many people message me on Instagram saying how nice to have done that. I suppose because they go to bed early, we almost have our evenings in the morning. They're not as tired, they're full of energy. They have their breakfast, and then they craft, or or we go out in the garden. They're out on the trampoline. Your trampoline, thank you very much. Really, really early. So I think it sets them up for the day. My children don't like to be rushed particularly, and I'm not very pushy with things that I make them do either. I'm quite relaxed about sort of hobbies as well, and things like that. If they don't feel like doing something if they prefer to just be in the garden, I'm happier with that type thing. So but it was very nice on the beach this morning.
It looked so nice.
It was really nice.
I was really jealous when I saw that.
It was really nice, quiet little time with them.
So how do you get time for you as well? Do you get time for you?
No.
And are you happy with that?
I don't get much time to myself. But I don't. There's points where I feel like I'm at the stage where I'm getting burnt out and I need to go do something. But I think for me, I just love spending time with them. So I do spend all my time with them really. I read a lot, and the girls sort of give me that time to read. If they're playing in the garden, I'll tend to sit somewhere and read, or if they're playing in one room, I'll sit and read. I try to make a conscious effort not to be on my phone too much, and I find they don't interrupt me as much if I'm reading as if I was sat there on Instagram or something. So I suppose that's sort of my me time.
Okay. Can't think of much now. Was that one anything in your life that has shaped how you parented? I straight away. What is your biggest value when it comes to parenting?
My value. What's yours?
Mine was connection.
Connection.
Yeah. Having a connection with the girls.
I think just time, like giving them my time's really important.
Yeah.
I personally don't think there's like much substitute for you giving them the time.
Yeah.
You know those days when you like run ragged and they're still asking you to do something, and I just like really, really try to just take a step back and think it's not going to be forever.
Yeah.
So if they want me to go look at this bug, which I've looked at 50,000 times, I'm going to go look at that bug.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think time is one of the, and I've given a lot of my time to them. I really have. I think it's like valuable. I hope they look back and think, oh, Mummy was sort of there. Yeah. She was always there, and she always engaged with us and things. So yeah, that's probably. I suppose that ties into connection as well, doesn't it?
And I think for me, like, connection is the root of everything. Like, no matter kind of what you do, if you've got that connection, no matter how you find that connection, whether it's time or something else that you do, think that if you've got that connection, you'll always be able to get through anything that's thrown at you. And then as they grow and
definitely,
you know, go out into the world, if you've got that strong connection, you're always going to have that with them, and it's just something that you can then build on, isn't it? I guess.
I suppose as they get into teenage years as well, if their connection's there, they're going to talk to you about any sort of problems they get and things like that as well, isn't it? You know,
that's it. And then knowing that you're just there, and you're not gonna, you know, you understand them enough to get anything that they're going through, or try and understand, or
I think that's important, like in the whole family, isn't it? You know, that connection of you all together.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
What has been your biggest challenge so far?
Sleep. Yeah. Everything's worse when you're not sleeping, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
That's definitely. And I still have like people ask me like, when do you sleep? And I'm like, I know. I know. It's taken a long time to sleep. And I think that, like I referred to it before about me being quite uptight when I've had my first little girl. I can tell me getting uptight if I don't get enough sleep for sure. And like little things are bothering me, or I'm more snappy or shouty, or let my less patience with them. It's definitely been challenging. I think also like there's lots of information online about how to get your baby to sleep and how to get your toddler to sleep, and I've tried everything and
some children don't sleep, do they?
Sleep. No. I think that maybe if we were like more honest at the start and said to people, especially pregnant people, look, I know you think you're going to get some sleep, but seriously, you are not.
And I find there's such a focus on sleep. It's such a thing, and I mean, I've even done it in the past, and now I think, oh my God, why did I say that? But it's like one of the questions you ask, isn't it? Like, oh, do they sleep?
Are they sleeping well?
Yeah, and it's like, why do we put such a focus on sleep? Because I think it just makes you feel worse when you don't get it.
When it's being pointed out to you all the time. I think, you know, back to breastfeeding as well, there's a lot of times when I would speak to people about how little sleep I had, and my first little girl, she had really bad colic, and then it turned out she had a dairy allergy.
Right.
And I breastfed her, but obviously I was still eating dairy. So I think a lot of the time her sleep she was being woken up because she had tummy ache because of that, and I didn't realise till she was 1 and I started weaning her that was the sort of issue. So she used to sleep literally for 45 minutes, and then she would wake up like all night, and then she would only nap while I was holding her, which was lovely. And I think now, like, it was such a short time when she actually napped on me, and I miss it. But but I would go to sort of like play groups and things like that, and I'd say, you know, oh, she only sleeps 45 minutes at a time, and people would say, have you tried having a bottle before bed? And I'd be like, well, no, like I do feed her all day type thing, but I don't think that would have made any difference. I think it was literally she just now she's amazing. Like, you could go in the room and a tornado could go off and she would never wake up. Like, but yeah. So I think that's probably been one of the most challenging things is sleep. And it affects everything, isn't it? It affects relationships, like your friendships, everything.
You can't, like, function properly, can you?
No, and I don't think you realise until you come out the other side of it, like, how bad it was.
Yeah. That's it. When you're in the thick of it, it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, you're just surviving, really, aren't you?
Literally, just surviving.
And I think there's quite a lot of pressure on, like, I can't imagine I could have gone back to work full time on that little sleep. Yeah.
Well, this is the other thing, isn't it? Like, so many parents, and I remember talking about this, like, when you have usually, like, your 9 months, possibly a year maternity, some people 6 months, some people only have a few weeks, don't they? And then you go back, but it is, how can you function properly when there's all this going on? Like, your body's still recovering. If your baby's not sleeping, there's so much going on, and
if you are breastfeeding, then you've got to pump in the day and all those sorts of things as well. Extra stress.
I didn't breastfeed, but with my second especially, I expressed, and I found that really hard because I wasn't feeding, but I was just expressing. It's then, where do you fit in the time to express as well? So
I know, like, all the things they say about what you should fit in when your baby sleeps.
Yeah,
then you're just being milking a cow.
But then when you're trying to, like, go back to work as well, it just feels to me so wrong. Yeah, like the way should we say, the system is. It definitely just doesn't.
And I think parenthood changes you so much, that, like, even now, I feel like it's probably taken me a good 5 years to feel like I'm Sophie. I'm not just mummy.
Do you know what? I was just talking about this on my last podcast, saying I feel like now I'm entering a new season of parenting, and so my youngest is 7, and it's only now in the last few months that I'm starting to feel like me again. Yeah,
it does take that long. I think we need to all be, like, more gentle on ourselves. Definitely, for sure. And not feel bad about that. And it just be a natural thing that it does take time. Especially then if you have multiple children afterwards. It's all those same.
And I think we put so much pressure on ourselves, and society puts so much pressure on us as well to do certain things at certain times and be all this stuff. That you can't do it. No, you can't do it.
You can't. No. And then you end up just burnt out or
Okay, I think we're on to the last question already.
Oh, are we?
What do you wish you could change about parenting in general, as in for everyone?
I don't know, actually. Everyone. Perhaps that, there weren't so many pressures. It's almost now like there's too many versions of parents to sort of follow as really well, isn't there? Yeah. Like with the introduction of social media as well. It's in there a while now, hasn't it? But there's so many, like, schools of thought that you could follow. Yeah. That I think, like, it's overwhelming at times. Yeah. And I think it's best to just maybe, take a step back and just go with how you feel, really. Because you can't fit into any box. It's like there's too many boxes now, isn't there?
There is. And I think I found for a long time that I didn't really know where I fit into the motherhood thing, because I was elements of all different groups. Like there's some stuff out of one, and I picked them all out, and then it took me a while to realise what it was that I was feeling, but I just didn't feel like I fit. Yeah. Because I wasn't this specific stereotype.
Yeah, and I think definitely.
You don't have to fit into one. You can I think you've got to look, like you say, at what works for you, what fits for you.
Definitely.
And just kind of go with that and not feel the pressure.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Like, I would say, like, my kids are semi-feral. And I'm like, I'm like very laid back about what they can do. But then they have to wear shoes. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're going out to the supermarket, you have to put shoes on, type thing. Like, I'm not that free.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, if I could change that for parents and sort of just give them their confidence back in making their decision and it being the right one. You know, like, for me, like, breastfeeding, for example, till my children were 3 was right for me. But there were times when I was like, well, am I doing the right thing? Because such and so's not, they've stopped feeding. Or, you know, or maybe I should get out of this bed and go back in with my husband because everybody's telling me that, oh, it must be affecting your relationship with your husband type thing. And it hasn't. It's been fine. Like, it's better to just go with it. Just go with how you feel and, be confident in that. Yeah, so that's what I would change,
Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Any other comments? Or
I don't think so.
Else you want to...
No, I just think it's really good that you know, this podcast, I've been listening to lots of the episodes and it's just nice, isn't it?
Yeah, I love that every episode I record, I take away something different from it and I hope that all the listeners do too, but I find it so interesting chatting with people, and the main reason why I kind of ask the same set of questions every time is because I love how it highlights how differently we all parent and all the sort of different topics that you can cover within that, but it doesn't mean that one guest is doing it the right way and one's
and
not.
It's unique to you, isn't it?
Yeah, and I just kind of really want to highlight to everybody that, you know, you've just got to do it for you and what works for you and your children.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to also, like, hear just, you know, just your normal mum type, you know, average Joe mum talking about their experience, isn't it? They're not an expert, they're just doing it, they're in the thick of it.
That's it. And I was just talking about this before as well, actually. I'm doing a course at the minute and it's delving into all sorts of things on motherhood. But one of the things that we're talking about is how along the way it started being promoted to us that we should listen to experts and professionals, and we've lost that mother to mother knowledge, and that, I mean, who knows the children better than the mothers?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, they say about raising, you know, it takes a village to raise children, but that support network needs to come back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that we can all support each other.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
That's something else that comes up on, I think, nearly every podcast I've done. Every episode, at least one point is mentioned about the village.
Yeah.
Because we just need it, don't we?
Yeah.
That's, you know, it's something that if you don't have support, you just really struggle, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Amazing.
Cool. Thank you so much.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to follow, review and share with other parents you know. You can now listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon and Google Podcasts. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please get in touch via any of my social media channels, website or email. Thank you, Sophie, for joining me on today's podcast. It's been great to have you, and thank you to everyone for listening.